Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, and we just got a chance to hear from Sam Pittman, which we'll talk about. We'll get to some more recapping of the Texas A&M game. We'll have best and worst of the weekend, sponsored by the Leroy Lounge on Dixon Street, which will be at again tonight, by the way, at 6 p.m. But fellas, how we feeling after a full-fledged fun weekend of Razorback athletics and especially the football team once again?
I don't have an answer to that. I feel nothing, John. I'm numb to this by this point. Yeah, you know, it was par for the course over there in Jerry World. And after listening to Sam Pittman, I have more concerns than I even did after that. So here we go.
Yeah, I think the reality of the situation that this Arkansas football program is in is really set in. I think there's a lot of the fan base that is probably a little bit checked out, and some that I'm sure are wondering how to process all this. And we're kind of right there with you. And so we hope that everyone will stick around and at least enjoy this ride with us while we try and see what's going to happen here. You know, it just sucks that Tennessee's in town. Arkansas's hosting a top 5 team in Fayetteville Saturday, and you know, there's just zero buzz, zero excitement for it. And, you know, that would have been a lot different had things just been a little bit different on Saturday. But it's the world we live in. And so I think this week is going to be there's going to be a lot of questions asked this week, and I look forward to that.
I'm actually kind of excited that they're playing a good team, and because it doesn't feel like Arkansas's played they haven't won, so it doesn't matter, but it doesn't feel like they've played a good team at home in a long time, maybe since Ole Miss of 2022. So at least there's that. Silver linings. You're at least playing a high-quality team, which Tennessee really is. They're really a good team. And I know we'll do a lot of that previewing as the week goes on. But, folks, this is going to be a little bit of a reaction Monday. So if you want to get in on the conversation, of course, you can hit us up in the chat here on our live stream. You can also call in to our phone lines at 478-344-6623. We will get to your phone calls throughout the show and everything. But guys, we got to hear from Sam Pittman. Of course, that's why Mondays we always go a little bit later into the afternoon, because we wait to hear from Sam Pittman, because how stupid would we look if we decided like, well, let's go ahead and start a thing, and then all of a sudden all this crazy news comes out. So we always want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. But this is a little bit of a long clip, but I kind of want to set the tone with this, and then we'll get into the specifics. But Sam Pittman was asked about looking back now at the Texas A&M film, you know, in the press conference after the game. You know, it's still really raw and still not a chance to look back on it, but he was asked about what went wrong against A&M and some of the things that they can be fixed. But long clip, but a lot of information here to dive through.
Well, let's go with the fumble first. There's 2 ways you can play it. You can charge it, or you can stand on the line of scrimmage and read the mesh. And they had 2 different ways to play it. I think, you know, we should have just gave the ball, and they had us on that particular one. Part of it was a little bit of a snap problem too, so it slowed down the timing of it. But we probably should have just gave the ball and took our lumps on that one, because I believe they were mesh charging Taylen, you know, and fumbled football, and obviously bad timing, bad place, all of it. That, you know, if we'll just hold on to football, we'd be a really good football team with all the problems that we've got to correct. The second one, I think we've had so many pressures that we've got a lot of problems. We've got a confidence problem. We have a quarterback that's not confident. There's times when he can stand in the pocket that there is one there. There's times when he stays in the pocket and he gets hit. You know, so probably in between, and we tried a lot of quick passing game as well. But I think between that, moving the pocket and running the football, you know, the problem with that was early in the game, you know, we lost a running back early in the game. 22 was in and out of the game. R-Dub was suspended, which he's not anymore, by the way, but he was suspended. So it takes a little bit of our tight ends. Both of them didn't practice a whole lot last week, so it takes a little bit of the running thought out of it. But I think to take pressure off of the offensive line and our quarterback, we have to run the ball a little bit more, quick game, get the ball out of his hands so we can build some trust between him and the offensive line. And he's got to get better. The offensive line's got to get better. I think Tesla was a big shot in the arm for us. I think he came in and made some plays, and I believe that gives Taylen another option to go to. So there's a lot of reasons behind that. If I was going to put it in a nutshell, I'd say we got to protect the front of the pocket better. I didn't think our tackles I thought they played better than they played the week before. But there's no place for him. A lot of times there's no place for him to step up. And so the pocket's getting collapsed on him, which makes you look worse at tackle. Even the last one, that we fumbled the football on. I mean, Carmona had him 11 yards deep. You can't ask your guy to do more than that. He flushed because the front of the pocket was coming at him, and the guy got the strip fumble. But I thought our tackles were better. We've got to continue to get better, but I think the front of the pocket is something that we're certainly going to address this week as well.
Okay, so really long clip, a lot of things to try to go through and to work through on that I know we want to talk to, but we'll start with the comment that I guess he made in the beginning part of it, saying, hey, if we just don't turn the ball over, we're a good football team, which, or at least even with all the issues that they have, they'd still be in contention. It's like, I feel like, that's the case in this particular game, but I don't know. I don't see that as maybe, if they don't turn the ball over, they're right there next to their own goal line, they score, maybe they actually end up winning, but I don't know. I feel like there's still a lot of bigger issues than just, hey, if we don't turn the ball over, then we're a good football team.
Yeah, there are a lot of bigger issues. Like Pooh Bear the Plug said, and like you have famously said, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. So yeah, if you don't turn the football over, then you probably win those games. And it just hasn't been the case. Man, there were two things about that really stood out to me. One, and Sam Pittman he's the offensive line guy. He's the head coach at the University of Arkansas. So he knows a hell of a lot more about offensive line than I do. But if the tackles were better against Texas A&M than they were against Auburn, they must have been worse than I thought against Auburn. Because man, that was pretty tough. And then two, where does we have a quarterback who's not confident rank on the things you want to hear from your head football coach 5 weeks into the season before Tennessee comes to town? That's a huge red flag, man.
Yeah, I think he touched on it there, but the relationship between Taylen Green and this offensive line, it's completely frayed. And it's clearly led to a lot of uneasiness. They talked about Taylen Green being rattled on Saturday, and I'd imagine that offensive line played a good role in it. It is very interesting that he said the tackles played better. I agree, Curtis, because we talked about this a little bit yesterday on the post-game report card. PFF, which, Pro Football Focus has its ups and downs. I'm not saying it's gospel. They charged 9 of the 11 pressures to the tackles, 7 of which were Keyshawn Blackstock alone. And so, I don't know if I can buy, especially whenever the game-winning sack, the game-winning strip came when Carmona got beat. So it's like, I really don't know. In fact, they charged Braun and Nichols with 0 pressures allowed. And so I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because I think the biggest play of the game that Arkansas made was the play to Tesla, where the pressure came from the tackles. Taylen stepped up and made the best throw of his career. So I don't know. I'd really have to go back and look. Like Sam Pittman went back and watched the film. I've watched the game back a little bit, but not in its entirety. I haven't been breaking down the film or anything, so I'm not going to question what he has to say there. But I just think it's very interesting that there's a lot of concern that he brings up, and then a lot of, we have to do this and we have to do that. We have to run the ball more. We have to get our screen game going, get our quick game going. It's like, I just don't understand why like he's the guy that's in charge of this. I know he's not the play caller. I know Bobby Petrino is the play caller, but it's like, it seems like always after the game, he's like, we should have done this. We should have done that. And so, it's got to be frustrating for fans to hear that. And here, just kind of the just excuses come out every Monday whenever we do these press conferences.
Yeah, and then going back to your comment too, Curtis, about not Taylen Green not having the confidence and also not having a lot of trust right now with the offensive line. I think that you don't want to hear it. I guess that is, if it's honesty, this may be one of the times that honesty is going to get him in trouble a little bit. But I think that that's one of the biggest issues that they're facing right now, and what's my biggest concern moving forward, because I know we talked about, I know you guys did on yesterday, but this is now going to be the most difficult part of your schedule. Yes, you got majority of your games at home. Does not matter. You're going to be facing Tennessee, who is one of the best teams in the country, and Texas, one of the best teams in the country, and then LSU and Ole Miss, which I know Ole Miss lost this last weekend, but guess what? They're actually not bad teams. They're actually pretty good. So this is the toughest part of your schedule. It's not getting any easier, and suddenly you're looking at it right now. It's like, oh, well, he doesn't have confidence right now. Well, how is he going to get it back? He doesn't have some warm-up game to try to get him back into the mix and be like, hey, okay, we'll face a UAPB here, and you can get that confidence back. It's like, you face some of the easier teams you're going to be facing. Now it's do or die. So how do you get that confidence back? You're not going to have any games to get it back if you keep playing this way. That really scares me. It really scares me the rest of the way.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag to me. It really is. And I love Taylen Green. Love him as a person, love him as a highlight maker, playmaker kind of guy. And, I've been able to accept a lot of the, maybe the negatives or the not so good things about the way that he plays, because I understand what he's capable of doing, but some of that kind of goes out the window if you lack confidence. And man, it's just one thing after another to the point where you can't ignore it anymore. I mean, even after a win at Auburn, you got Jaquindon Jackson right after the game saying, yeah, man, he gets too jittery in there, so I really got to calm him down. And then Taylen Green was asked about that during the player interviews last week. And he was like, oh, well, yeah, Jaquindon Jackson used to be a quarterback, so he's able to talk to me about this and that. And it's like, dude, you are the quarterback. You know what I mean? And then the entire game, they're talking about him being rattled. And then now you got Sam Pittman saying he's not confident. And I'm not saying I blame him for not being confident, because he's about to get his head taken off every game. But buddy, you're gonna sink or swim, with Taylen Green. And if you don't have him playing fully confident, that's like the starting point. Then it goes into making the right decisions and the right reads and making the plays and everything like that. You got to believe in your ability to do it before you can even start that other part. So that's concerning to me. I don't like that at all.
We had a lot of people on the post-game show the other day asking, like, hey, is it fair for us to criticize Bobby Petrino? Is it fair for us to point some fingers and maybe ask some questions in that regard? And I think now is actually a decent time to do it, because we're talking about leadership, which is something we talk about with Taylen Green a lot. And obviously Sam Pittman, as the head coach, takes on a leadership role. I think it's a really big red flag when your quarterback, who's supposed to be leading the offense, is clearly rattled, has lost confidence in himself and his offensive line. So that trust is kind of broken. Your head coach, is supposed to be the offensive line guy. And obviously that leadership is very much in question by the fan base, by the team, by the entire country. That's very much in question. And so for our Arkansas offense, like, who is it that this group is supposed to turn to as the leader, and Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator? That kind of has to fall on his shoulders a little bit. Now, of course, it can't be all him. He can only play with the cards that he's dealt. But I wonder if there's a real issue of who is the commanding voice in that offensive locker room? Who's the one that's kind of leading the charge? Because I'll be honest with you guys, when I look at this Arkansas team, I look over the defense. I don't have those questions. Mm-hmm. I know who the leaders are on that defense. I see those leaders stepping up. Even Landon Jackson, a guy who's taken it on the chin from this fan base all year long, been saying, oh, it's a disappearing act. You see him getting better and better each week, kind of leading from the front of that defense. T. Will, he brings the energy. We see him on the sideline. Clearly, those guys respect him. Marcus Woodson's a guy that the camera on ESPN kept thinking that he was Travis Williams. They kept showing Marcus Woodson because of how involved he is as a leader. And you kind of see it with how that group plays. And even though they ended up coming up short and, not getting the job done, even though they held A&M to under 300 yards, it came in a losing effort. I don't really feel like I have those big picture questions about the leadership and is the foundation of the group broken. Whereas the Arkansas offense, it's kind of crazy how it's come this far from week 2 when they had 650 yards of offense to where it's like, this might be a broken unit that's in kind of complete disarray. And it sort of feels that way. And man, it happened really quickly because it felt like 2 weeks ago, we felt like Arkansas was going to be able to move the ball against just about anybody. It was just a matter of if they would score, if they would not turn the ball over. And so, yeah, I say all that to say the simple fact of, oh, yeah, if we don't turn the ball over, we're a good team. I just don't think that's true, especially with this offense.
Yeah, it doesn't inspire any confidence for me. And folks, I know we got the phone lines are lighting up, and we will get to your phone calls. I promise we will. So just hang tight. But did want to also play this clip when speaking about Taylen Green and how his legs weren't as effective against Texas A&M as we had seen it in other games, and why the reason that was. Sam Pittman had this to say last week.
Oh, they just, they were messing with him. They were running at him, running at the mesh. And they were sitting there and reading the mesh, first play of the game. And then the same play comes along and he gets around that later in the game. The looks, I think, were a little bit difficult for him. But he got a lot on his plate. I think he'll be fine. I know he'll be fine. But that's what they were doing. They were continuing to mix up the looks for him. And I think, and the other thing is our snap, when we go into the left snapping, we're snapping it to the right. And I think that has a lot to do with our timing of our run game. And when he's reaching back here and reading over here, I believe it becomes difficult. And we've got to help him get the snap down the middle where it's supposed to be, so he can have a little bit more time to make those decisions.
So they were just messing with him. That's what the problem was.
Sounds to me like what any defensive coordinator in the country does when preparing for the opposing team's offense. That's just, I don't know, man. I don't like it. None of that made me feel good or made me feel better. I do agree with the snap thing, though.
It's a problem.
Disrupting the timing there. Yep, is a problem, has been a problem. But yeah, the whole thing about messing with him, mixing up coverages, mixing up looks, that's just kind of part of the deal, man. That's just how this thing works. So, and I see a lot of people saying it's not on Petrino, it's on Green, everything. Well, first of all, Petrino handpicked Taylen Green to be his quarterback. And so the whole idea is, he's your guy, so you can get him ready to do these things. And people are saying, receivers are running open all over the place. Well, if you don't have the protection, or whatever you need for him to be able to step up and make those throws, then maybe you have to adjust. And they did that to a degree in the second half with some quick passes and things like that. They threw a couple screens in there, which worked. So I'm not saying Petrino did a horrible job, calling plays in this game, but as people were screaming in my Twitter mentions and in the post game, Bobby Petrino is not above reproach. So it's, there's blame to go around here with this situation for sure.
Well, I just feel like the entire unit's not on the same page. And really, so that's where I wanted to clarify some of my criticism of Petrino is really just he's the offensive coordinator. Like, someone has to kind of keep this group symbiotic and kind of working on the same page. And it seems like there's just dysfunction from the entire thing. And I also would like to disagree with that claim that receivers are just running wide open every play. That's just not a thing. It sounds good in theory. It's not really a thing. I think there's plenty of blame to go around. I mean, from every position group, because we've kind of pointed the finger at, hey, the receivers don't get open. Oh, the tight ends are a non-factor. The offensive line can't protect. Oh, Taylen is making bad decisions and all that. At some point, it's just a dysfunctional offense, and it's just weird because I really didn't expect to see that preseason. And through the first few weeks, it didn't seem like this was a group that was broken by any means. But it does seem to the more time goes by, it seems like they were just beating up on bad competition.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's like you think about the quarterbacks that they faced off against. I think you guys brought up of facing off against backup quarterbacks pretty much. I think that we'll get into the SEC, but I think that's kind of what happened to Ole Miss a little bit and when they went up against Kentucky is that they played no competition 4 weeks into the year, and Kentucky had played Georgia and South Carolina, and sometimes that matters, and sometimes it impacts you the rest of the way. So we got a ton of phone calls, so we're going to try to work through some of these folks, so stay with us on this one. Phone lines 478-344-6623. Let's go to Bishop Boy. What's up, Bishop Boy?
Hey, what's up, gentlemen? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, cool. How y'all doing?
Doing
Good.
great.
Hanging in there.
All right, so I'm not usually one to just go and just bash players, but man, I just got to call him out. Blackstock, whenever he committed to Michigan State, I want to say that someone got him on the record for saying he committed to Michigan State because Arkansas couldn't afford him. Man, you ain't nothing better than a Cybertruck. You got all that. You got the size. You look like you're strong as all get out. You just look terrible out there. And I'm sorry, what price tag are you asking for that's worth that type of play? I don't get why we haven't explored other options. That right side of that line's a vulnerability. There's times when Taylen Green has to go through his progressions. He's not been doing it. And part of that's at fault for the offensive line. I don't know what needs to be done. Maybe we need to get some younger guys. We need to get some experience. What do y'all think? It's not sustainable like this, is it?
I got bad news for you, because here's what Sam Pittman said, talking about that, and I quote, "I don't think personnel change is going to help us," when talking about the offensive line. So maybe they weren't as deep as they said in fall camp. Shocker. And it doesn't sound like he's looking at shifting things around in terms of who's playing and who's playing where. But yeah, no, I mean, Blackstock he's struggled. You know, it's been tough on him over there. I think he struggles with speed coming off the edge. And then, you know, there were a couple times that I saw, you know, the illustrations of him just kind of being confused on where he needed to go. He kind of had two options, you know, block inside, block outside, and then he would lean one way, lean the other, and he really wouldn't do either. And guys were just kind of running right by him there. So it was a rough day at the office. It's been, you know, that right side, I think, has been a more problematic side for Arkansas. But it doesn't sound like they're really looking at any other options in terms of replacing guys out there right now.
Should we revoke his cowboy collar? Because maybe. I think that is interesting. I mean, you can't have a cowboy collar and be giving up 7 pressures a game. But yeah, I think if anyone's like hoping for personnel changes, I know how, as a fan base, like as a fan of many sports teams, I understand how it's like you always just kind of want to see the guy that you're not seeing. But I don't know if Joe Moore is necessarily the answer. You know, I'm not saying he's Joe Less, but I do think that the only way you're gonna get an offensive line that doesn't include Blackstock would be if Kudus came back, which doesn't sound like it's happening anytime soon.
Right.
No, not at this point in time. Appreciate the phone call, Bishop Boy. Let's go to, believe it's Parker, who's in Jonesboro. What's up, Parker?
What's going on? Can you hear me?
We got you.
Gotcha.
Man, I think the wheels are fixing to fall off this whole wagon pretty quick, to be honest with you. I think a couple of the key players on offense, and Quentin Jackson and Andrew Armstrong, I think they're going to get tired of it. Tired of losing the one-possession games, whatever, in the story of Arkansas's life. And the offensive line, Eric Mateos, was supposed to be a little Sam Pittman protege, you know, when we hired him, it seemed like. And, well, that's went to shit. So, I don't know. I just wish defense, you cannot blame the defense for getting tired, because the offense in the A&M game went about 4 straight possessions where they didn't get a pass the A&M 15-yard line. You know, so they're just running out constantly. And, hell, they're going to get tired come the late in the fourth quarter, start of the fourth. And I don't know, man. I just think the wheels are fixing to come off this buggy, and it's going to get real bad.
I mean, I that's what I worry about. You know, like my stance on this whole thing has been, you know, about the Sam Pittman deal and everything. Like, we all know that's something that you're going to have to explore here soon, whether it's the end of this season or next year or whatever. I'm not a big, you know, let somebody go in the middle of the season type of guy, unless, like, to your point, the wheels are falling off. Like, you know, guys are letting go of the rope, and it's kind of like it was towards the backstretch of last season. This is a big adversity, like gut check moment for Arkansas here, because even in the Oklahoma State loss, it was whatever. Oh, they didn't play it well against UAB. Okay. But you started to see some of the chinks in the armor in terms of the togetherness and everything with this team. You're hearing that the quarterback is not confident. You're hearing that the wide receivers are yelling at the offensive line, and it's having to be broken up on the sidelines. And this is a real test of adversity. So it's going to go one of two ways. Like, either they are really together and they you know, kind of come together and play better. Like, I don't expect them to beat Tennessee, whether they play good or not, to be honest with you. But or this thing will really start cracking at the foundations, and then we start trending in the wrong direction, kind of like you're talking about. And then add on to that a Tennessee team that's really good, they're coming off a bye. And if you listen to Sam Pittman today, it was like, well, most of our injuries are on offense. We've got some key guys who are going to have to take it easy and just get mental reps and practice. So they're banged up. You got a key offensive lineman who's already out. Jaquindon Jackson's banged up. Andrew Armstrong's banged up. I'm sure Taylen Green's not feeling great. The tight end room is the one that he's really concerned about with Luke Has and Ty Washington and Posko. So now they're going to be banged up. They're pissed off at each other. Like, you're going to learn a lot about the intestinal fortitude of this bunch on Saturday.
Yeah, well, the timing is really tough because even if Arkansas were 4-1 or 5-0, like if this season had gone according to plan, getting whipped up by Tennessee on Saturday was going to be in play no matter what. Like, that's one of the best teams in the country, in my opinion, maybe the best team in the SEC. We'll see how it plays out. But I mean, like, that's a team that, like, even if Arkansas were playing well, would have an uphill battle against. And so, you know, if Arkansas goes out there and loses 42-10 against Tennessee, it's not necessarily a sign that this team has lost control. But again, like I said, after the A&M game Saturday, this is kind of the first moment where that door is open for these players to quit and to roll over and for them to just kind of succumb to the adversity. And, you know, we'll see if they do that. You know, that Auburn game we felt like was kind of like a moment where they had resurfaced, and it's like, okay, it's not going to go all the way south. And, you know, all season long or during the offseason, you always hear people just be like, oh, Arkansas, kind of write them off right away. Like, oh, they're going to suck. Like, they're going to suck until they get rid of that head coach, blah, blah, blah. And I really didn't buy into that type of narrative just because you see the pieces and you see kind of the path to Arkansas being a competent team. But it's hard at this point not to see a path to them rolling over and quitting, which if last year is any indication, they will do when the going gets tough. And so this is like Curtis said, this is gut check time, man. Like, this is a perfect chance for Arkansas to kind of fight back. But, you know, it's really tough that you got to face Tennessee right as your team is starting to have some of those cracks and those holes open up. Now you're facing the best team you've faced all year. It's really tough timing, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not expecting Arkansas to win. I don't think anyone's expecting Arkansas to win over Tennessee. But, you know, if we do this Pot of That Nature post-game show and Tennessee ends up winning by a final score of 63-13, you know, it's just something really embarrassing. I think that, you know, the chickens are coming home to roost, as they say. I think it's pretty much time to mail it in and to call it good. We'll get more phone calls here in a second, folks. Wanted to get to some of our Super Chat sponsored comments. Thank you all for doing this for us and supporting us. Storytime Play says, after watching game film, thank God we didn't run the ball more. We wouldn't have a running back left on the team. Them boys came in untouched on there.
They were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Early and often.
Yeah, and it was wild. Also, he says, tell Michigan State to take Blackstock for free. Sorry, I'm having buyer's remorse, apparently.
Yeah, and as you know, again, like, we don't like to pile on guys individually, but Andrew did bring up a good point. One of the 3 or 4 things that we recorded in the past couple of days, but talking about this offensive line and the thing about transfer offensive linemen, really transfer anybody, but transfer O-linemen, is they're not NFL O-linemen usually, right? And that's why they say it's so difficult to build that thing through the transfer portal. And then you go look at it in Arkansas's case, and again, no disrespect, love these guys, but to your point, Andrew, I don't want to steal your thunder because you said it, but you know, Addison Nichols was a backup at Tennessee, and Josh Braun was a backup at Florida, and Blackstock was a backup at Michigan State. So what do you expect? You know what I mean? In terms, and guys can make improvements and settle in, and sometimes it's year 2 before you start to see the fruits of the labor with you know, transfers, whatever. But I mean, I was just hoping that they would be an improved unit from what they were last year, and I felt that way up until probably this past week, because that was a very similar feeling to what I felt last year.
Yeah, shout out to Kingsley, who in the chat was basically like, everyone's trying to come up with all these like reasons for why the O-line sucks. And a lot of times it really is just a talent issue. Like in the SEC, it's really hard to have a good offensive line if you don't have NFL guys. Like, it just really is. Think about all the best offensive lines Arkansas's had over the last 15 years. They've included 2 or 3, maybe 4 NFL guys. And I don't know if there's one on this current offensive line right now. And I think Marion Harris is kind of the only guy who has a claim to it, where like, hey, he could maybe possibly evolve into that, but he's clearly at this point in his career, he's younger. But yeah, I think you remember when Arkansas didn't get pressure on Oklahoma State, and you had people like Danny Shee in the chat that were like, well, you know, Oklahoma State, really experienced group. None of those cats are playing in the NFL, and they stink. And
look
that's
at them
why
now.
Oklahoma State is struggling to get things going offensively. having old offensive linemen in college football is really not the luxury people think it is.
Yeah, we got a lot of people calling in, and we appreciate all your chats and all the people calling in. Let's go ahead and hear real quick from Eddie, who's in Clarksville. Good afternoon, Eddie.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon to the Hog Nation. Certainly is a salty taste today, knowing you should have won a game Saturday, but again, you lose. Man, that's just agonizing. 2 games this year, no doubt in my mind, we should be 5-0. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. You know what I mean? Here's the thing that gets us, the Achilles heel. Leave it in the locker room. Don't bring it out on the playing field. What do? We turn the ball over. I think one thing when you talk about Taylen Green, play to his strengths. You know what teams are going to do now? I mean, A&M just set the recipe for it. They're going to stack the box, bring the blitz, force him up in the pocket, take the run away, and force him to pass. So here's how you negate that. Play to his strengths, Bobby Petrino. He's a better passer when he rolls out of the pocket. He's either going to design some pass plays, not down that he can hit, to get some confidence going, to get some timing going. And if it's not there, just have him run the ball. Because you're forcing him to do something he's not able to do yet. And so you got to play to the strengths of your players. And number 2, I'd say this. What I've noticed about, he's an explosive running back when you talk about DeQuindon Jackson. Well, one thing I found out about DeQuindon, either fair or unfair, till you prove me wrong, when you take a hit, you fumble the football. And you cannot do that, son. You got God-given talent. Hold on to the ball. And let me say something about Taylen Green. The offensive line, yes, that's the most pathetic showing by an offensive line Razorback team I ever witnessed. I mean, just pathetic. And Coach Pittman, here's what gets me. It's not just today we've had problems. On Saturday in Arlington, we've had problems on the offensive line. You're supposed to be an offensive line guru. What happened? I tell you one thing. You better go after some in-state players. Better recruiting there. Because, I say again, if you're going to go get a kid from Michigan State, a backup, why not get a kid from this state that's a backup somewhere? I don't care. Get some in-state players. But you got to get some. Here, this game Saturday, you can, contrary to what some may think, let me tell you the schedule of tennis. I'm not saying they're not a good team. Let me tell you the schedule they play. They beat a Chattanooga team, blew the doors off at home. They beat a Kent State team, blew the doors off at home. So there again, the friendly confines of Knoxville. You went on the road and beat North Carolina State, which, by the way, just got their doors blown off against Clemson by 30 points. They're 2-2. And then you went on the road, and Oklahoma left points on the board, and Norman, and you only won by 10 points. So let me say this about the SEC. If this team would dig deep, if our fan base would show up, like they can show up, I'm telling you, you just don't know. And so I play to Taylor Street. Leave the Achilles heel in the locker room, boys. If you do that, you should be 5-0. No doubt about it. Anybody knows that watched your games this year. As bad as you play, and sometimes you still play good enough to win. But what do? You fumble the ball. You get penalties on key drives, and I for the life of me, I'm yet to figure this out. I've never seen this before. You go into the fourth quarter leading by 3. You take your entire defensive rotation out of the lineup, your best defensive players who has held Texas A&M in check all game long. They only have one drive, and that was a drive that beat you for 58 yards. You held them to 1.3 yards to carry for 3 quarters. Who called that? Shame on you, baby. Thank you for taking my call.
Dude,
Okay, thanks, Eddie.
That was a Hall of Fame phone call. I got to be honest. I was waiting for it to go off the rails and him but really that was as on point and as focused. That was a great phone call right there. And I honestly
got it all out, man.
No notes, man. That was good stuff.
The only thing I disagree with is the people who keep thinking that Tennessee game at Oklahoma means that Tennessee's not that good. They got up by 3 scores early and put that thing in cruise control. They knew Oklahoma couldn't move the football. They just trying to run it, control the clock. They could have picked their score in that game. Don't get it twisted.
Did you see the video?
It's the same people who were looking at Texas A&M saying, well, Bowling Green hung with them. So, yeah, no. Tennessee's the real deal.
Did you see the video of Heupel telling Nico? He was like, "Hey, I caught off the dogs a little bit. Like we held it back a little bit. I kept you locked up, but like it's all good." Like he literally was telling him that after the game. And if you watched the game, it was very clear that was what happened. So I definitely don't agree with the idea that Tennessee got shown they were human against Oklahoma. I think that game was not as close as the score indicates.
No, people do. Yeah, dude. He was, that was a great call. He started off calm. I was like, it's not going to last. He's going to get crazy. But it was, the thing is, like, people do that all the time when, like when Kentucky almost beat Georgia or was going up against Georgia, like, Georgia sucks. Which, I mean, we'll talk about that great game over against Alabama, but then it's going to be the same thing. Well, Kentucky just went into Ole Miss and beat Ole Miss. Does that mean Ole Miss sucks? Like, it's, you can't just look at, I mean, but it's like, I hate that because you can't just look at one game and be like, well, this decides if a team is good or not. Like, sometimes it's just that way. Sometimes it's football. Sometimes you have bad games or the other team has a really good game. Sometimes that happens.
The only thing you can figure out, though, John, is when a team consistently loses games they're supposed to lose, you can confirm that they're bad, and that's where Arkansas is at.
Yep, that's true. Unfortunately for them, that is true. We'll work through some of these phone calls, folks, and then we'll get to your chats, too. Let's go to Trey and Harrison. What's up, Trey?
John, I ain't doing too well. Lost to my most hated team again. But I was right. We would lose, and it would be in a heartbreaking fashion. Again, can we please do what Taylen is good at? He is not drop-back passer. What does he do every time that's something? He is a rollout guy. Some more boots, please. Go to the Oklahoma State playbook, please. That was when this offense was clicking. And also another thing for anybody who's complaining about this offense, can we all be straight up and say this is more like a 2-year project than a 1-year fix it? The offensive line is bad again. Bobby Petrino's offense is hard and complex to comprehend. We all know that it's an NFL offense. Taylen needs another year of development under Petrino. He ain't going to get that in a full spring and fall. You just need a 2-year deal. And if they don't beat LSU, Ole Miss, or whatever, they need another SEC. They need 2 SEC games and then beat Louisiana Tech. I mean, if they can't do that, we ain't going to have a year 2 with Pittman and Petrino. I absolutely love Travis Williams, but we need to freaking get this going, guys. I mean, clock is ticking.
Yeah, appreciate your phone call, Trey. Thanks for calling in.
That's why the Petrino hiring was. I mean, I loved it at the time, but it was interesting to me with Sam Pittman being very much on the hot seat going into the year, because in a lot of ways I agree. I mean, like you expected obviously an improved offense this year, and they are. But yeah, to really get this thing rolling, it wasn't going to be an overnight thing. Anybody who thought that was just really, really sipping the Kool-Aid. And so, yeah, like I saw more and more people last week saying, honestly, it would be nice if we could get another year with this full staff, just bring Pittman back, see, T. Will, Petrino, see what they can do. But then you take a loss and now everybody's like, get Pittman the hell out of here again. You got to decide what you want, man, because I have a feeling that it's going to be if Pittman's gone, then, Petrino probably is too, depending on who they bring in.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of fans who probably want to keep Petrino but don't want to keep Pittman, in which case, they probably need to be looking at a very few specific head coaching candidates in order to make that happen. And yeah, I mean, look, Petrino walked into a really bad situation here at Arkansas in terms of having to rebuild this offense, having to pick a quarterback when, because I would love for people to be like, oh, why didn't they just go get someone like Cam Ward or someone like you're just not going to get Dylan Gabriel to come to the table and negotiate with you. And so, look, I think that Taylen Green was the guy he picked, given the circumstances. I think the O-line, again, is not a Petrino issue. But here's the thing. We knew all these things going into the year, and everyone else knew all these things going into the year. And so it is interesting to see how, like, the tunes have changed a little bit, and how it felt like we were crucified for like having some questions and being like, hey, this might not work out super well. It seemed like, people really didn't think that was a possibility. It was just kind of like, oh, Petrino's there. He's going to make the offense great. And like, that's all there is to it. And so, yeah, it is frustrating because there's so much about this coaching staff that people love, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I think obviously people love Petrino, but I just don't know if that's really the reality we live in, where it can be a 2-year project. But I did just real quick, guys, I wanted to touch on, we've talked about it a little bit, but offensive line in 2022, Arkansas brought in 3 4-star offensive linemen: Andrew Chambly, Omarion Harris, and who's the other one? Oh, Kudus. Kudus was the other 4-star guy. They also had Eli Henderson in that class. The year before, they had Devin Manuel and Cole Carson and Terry Wells. Pretty much none of those guys have panned out. Like, Patrick Kudus would be a starter if he were healthy. Omarion Harris is starting for them. But, like, that group is where you're supposed to have, like, your O-line built. And they just pretty much went 3 years kind of whiffing on a lot of big-time pieces where it's like, you know, you don't want to have to rebuild your offensive line through the transfer portal. You've got to land on some of these things. And so really a lot of these issues just kind of stem from back in the day. And it's just tough to see it playing out now. Because now Arkansas is in a weird spot where they like have certain things on the roster they want to keep, certain parts of the staff they want to keep, but it doesn't really work that way most of the time.
We did. I wish I could remember the name of it because I go and repost it right now. But during camp, we did one of these shows, and a bunch of people got ticked off at whatever the title was. But it was essentially like, why would this offense not get better? Like, why would we not see what we want to see after Petrino? Why would it not work out with Petrino? And literally everything we're seeing right now is what we were talking about. You know,
Yep.
like, maybe Taylen Green is, you know, he doesn't take that next step, and he just kind of is the guy that you saw at Boise State in the Mountain West. Oh, maybe this offensive line is not vastly improved and they really struggle. And oh, maybe these receivers outside of Andrew Armstrong haven't taken the next step. Literally everything that we talked about on that day is what's going on right now. It doesn't mean it can't change the next few games, but like you mentioned, that the schedule ain't getting no easier, man. So there you go.
Also, I want to touch on this real quick because I've seen a lot of people kind of throw this narrative out there that the problem was that Green was named the starter early. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was there at spring practice. This is extreme revisionist history. He took all the reps with the ones, but nobody disputed it. In fact, Jacoby Criswell checked out so quickly that we knew after like 2 days that he was transferring because he just gave up.
Yep.
To say that, like, you know, you can blame the coaching staff for that, but that's kind of what Petrino said. He was like, hey, we roll out the balls. Whoever goes out there and picks them up first, you know, that's who lines up first. Nobody ever really made a claim, and I'm not saying like that's how it should work. Like Malachi Singleton needs to go down and put his flag down and be like, I'm the starter. But like, this wasn't a thing anybody had a problem with in the spring. I don't know why everyone has a problem with it now. And like all year, all off season long, nobody was having a quarterback situation where it was like, oh, hey, should they try this or whatever? Like, I would love to like pretend like this is an issue. I don't think this is an issue at all. This kind of thing happens all the time where coaches bring in transfer quarterbacks and they start right away. And nobody had a problem with it until now.
Well, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves that people bring up, where it was the same thing with like Muss, and people were getting fed up with like, you know, why isn't Leighton Blocker playing more, you know, and all of this. I'm like, okay, do you think Petrino is stupid enough to be like, you know what, this guy's just too good. He's too good to play. We just don't want to play him. He's too talented. He's too good at the quarterback position. We just don't want to play him. No, he's going to play the best person. And there's a reason why they're not the starter. And you may not like it. Maybe you want to see something different, because I know we'll talk about that in our poll question. But this idea of like, oh, well, you know, he just didn't even look at any other quarterbacks that were on the roster. He just wanted Taylen Green. I do not buy that, because Petrino is a guy who's been around a long time and has coached a lot of great quarterbacks, and he knows what he wants, and he knows what he wants to see. And I just have a hard time believing that he saw all the other quarterbacks and they were better than Taylen Green. He's like, but, you know, hey, well, Taylen Green's still my guy. I just need to keep him in there. I just don't buy that.
Exactly. 100%.
Geez, a lot of phone calls coming in. We'll try to work through. Yeah, we'll try to work through all these folks as best as we can. So be patient with us. Let's go to Jeremy in Tulsa. What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Oh, man. I don't know if Hollywood could script a more snake-bitten movie about a football team than what Arkansas is currently living. I mean, how exhausting is it? And I know, you know, a lot of people have called in here, so I'm not going to be breaking any news, but to have the same things over and over and over again, that is Arkansas's undoing. I mean, think about it. You went on the road to Oklahoma State. You were up 21-13. You muffed a punt. You gave them the ball first and goal. They go and tie it up. You're up 14-7 against Texas A&M. You fumble the ball first and goal, and they go and tie it up. And it makes no sense to me. First-time head coaches at this level, typically, maybe they're a good offensive coordinator, a good defensive coordinator. They get promoted to a head coach somewhere, and they may not be the best team, but you can definitely see their expertise of the side of the ball that they coach and that's their expertise on is doing good. Well, Sam Pittman didn't even have a side of the ball. He was an offensive line head coach, and the offensive line for Arkansas is probably going to be what his undoing is at the University of Arkansas. I mean, it's so exhausting, and I hear people say, and I could be wrong about this, but we need to stick to Taylen Green's strengths, and I think he has a lot of potential. But I'm going to be honest, like through 5 games, I'm not quite sure what his strengths are. He has 9 total touchdowns. 6 of those touchdowns came against UAPB and UAB. Against Oklahoma State, Auburn, and Texas A&M, he has 3 total touchdowns, I believe 4 interceptions, and a lost fumble. Like I know he can run and get him out of the pocket, but he can't do that enough. If that's Taylen Green's strengths, we can't do that enough to win games in the SEC. What I see is a quarterback that we need that can at least stand in the pocket and hit wide open guys. I mean, I was at the game in Arlington. Tyrone Broden, now he probably wouldn't have caught the ball, but was running wide open down the middle of the field, and the ball was like 3 yards behind him. And I'm like, how are you a quarterback at this level and you can't hit those layup passes? And again, it's not like he misses 1 or 2. Like, he's missed those passes essentially all year long. And I know the argument, it's Petrino's offense and, get him back for another year and see if he's improved and let Petrino work with him. And I get it. But, I mean, if you can't even hit those wide open passes, like, that's not a scheme issue. That's not a complex Bobby Petrino offensive issue. To me, that's a talent issue. And I'm not saying those things can't get worked out, but I don't know if we're going to have enough time to work it out between Bobby Petrino and Sam Pittman, them supposedly being attached by the hip. And that's been what's so difficult on my end, is because I think it's so Arkansas-esque. The last time this team was relevant was when we had Bobby Petrino as the head coach, and you're going to get him for 1 more year, and Pittman's going to be fired. And the best thing you've had since Bobby Petrino is Bobby Petrino back on your campus, and he's probably going to only be here 1 year because everybody's going to be gone, and they're probably going to bring in a head coach that cleans house. So that's what I'm stuck with is I want this team to do good, obviously, but it's tough because it's like, well, do you go hire a new head coach? Like, who's it going to be? Like, you're not going to go make a splash hire. So is it like a borderline project hire, or is it better to say, hey, whatever. I mean, Sam Pittman, get Bobby Petrino back for year 2, Travis Williams year 3, and hopefully these things get figured out, which I don't think that they will, because it's the same thing. I'm so sick and tired. This is my last point. I know you guys have a lot of callers of hearing the press conferences, and the questions are, man, you guys had some missed assignments. How do you get that cleaned up? And then you hear an answer, well, we need to do this, that, or the other. It's the same thing every single week. It's always missed assignments. It's always little things. It's always turnovers. It's always the offensive line can't block. And it's been the same thing for 3 years. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. It's the same thing over and over, and we don't see any different results. So, and I was at the game at Texas A&M, and John, you guys, I know that you had mentioned every time that stupid border collie is shown on the big screen, they go freaking crazy. How annoying is that? That dog is so ugly, and every time that stupid border collie went up on the screen, Texas A&M went crazy. I'm like, do we have lives here? And like the yell leaders, like I'm not casting judgment, to each their own, but when you know something looks silly, something looks silly, and I don't know how you're a part of that tradition. I mean, that's like borderline cultish. So I appreciate you guys. Keep up the good work. And last thing, John, I love all 3 of you guys. You guys do a great job. But like when Arkansas loses and you are fire and brimstone and hotter than a blowtorch in the post games, like I love seeing that, because like I feel like that's 95% of the fan base. Like it has to be talked about. I love the emotion because, as you can tell, a lot of Hog fans feel the same way on this Monday morning. Tennessee's coming to town. You missed out on game day again. That's Arkansas, 2022. You missed out on game day. Bama's coming to town because Texas A&M beat you because you fumbled the ball. So I could go on for days. I'm not going to, fellas. I appreciate the time. You guys have a blessed one.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate you.
I love how he went through all of that and then made time to take a shot at that poor dog, Texas A&M.
Hate that dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but he feels like a lot of Razorback fans. I mean,
what we haven't had yet? We We haven't had anybody call in and say, guys, relax. You know, is it a coin flip game? You beat Auburn. Coin flip game, you lose to A&M. You know, this is just an average football team. Maybe they get to 6 wins. It's all right. People are fed up, man.
Yep.
People are absolutely fed up, and that's a tough narrative to change.
Well,
it is, and I mean, it's just rare that you see it go this direction and then flip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the coaches that get that inch closer and closer to the hot seat, it's very rare. I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure someone can tell me an example of when a coach flirted with the hot seat this much and then turned it around. But it just does seem like it would be one thing if this were year 2, year 3, but when it's year 5, and the whole Petrino aspect, which I think a lot of people truly in their brains were like, there's no way Petrino will fail at Arkansas. There's just no way. And so like they couldn't envision it going this direction. And I think a lot of people have just kind of come to that realization where it's like, it's really tough to find that silver lining and say, oh, well, and if it is, it's on the defensive side of the ball and has nothing to do with Sam Pittman, frankly. And so I think that's where part of the reality check comes in.
And the fact that it was the A&M game, and the fact there was another 1 possession loss, and the fact that you had it was the same thing. It's been every single time. It's hilarious. It's almost hysterical how that happens. And I think that just also was what made people get a lot more fired up. I'm going to ask you guys this. I may need your advice on this. There is a caller that's calling in that looks like the number's anonymous and the country says Thailand. What do you think? Should we take that call and see what happens? Yeah, I think so too. Well, let's just see what happens. Okay, from the anonymous person that looks like the country's in Thailand. Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's me, Pooh Bear.
Oh, it's Pooh Bear.
What
in Thailand, bro?
I don't know what's going on, man. Saying you're calling from Thailand on my phone lines over here, so I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on what's going on there either. But man, I have a quick question before I dive into this.
Okay.
Whose responsibility is it to make sure that the running back knows how to help pick up the blitz? Like for instance, let's say we know that the blitz is coming on Blackstock. They know they're hitting that A gap. They're going to target that tackle. Is that on Taylen? Is it on Petrino to make sure that Taylen knows to put him in position? Is it on the running back to know that? Is it on the line coach? Who exactly is that on before I dive into this?
I would imagine Taylen has like last say in terms of at the line of scrimmage, if they're calling the protection, whether it's him or Addison Nichols, that, you know, he's standing right there next to the running back. But I also think that's probably just a like running back coach, you know, Colby Smith, or just the scheme kind of knowing, hey, when we're doing this and the protection is flipped this way, I'm going here. So I mean, you could take your pick of who you want to throw the shade at.
So we can just chalk that up to poor communication, just all around.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, here's my problem. You know, we can go in a lot of directions, like you just said. I don't see any difference in these press conferences in Pittman if he would have won these games. You know, he's just up there. Oh man, he's just willy-nilly like, no, it's no big deal. These mistakes. I'm looking for a coach. You know, I might get criticized for this. Sorry, I might not be a true fan because of this, but I'm looking for a coach like Brian Kelly that loses to a USC who's punching the table in his post-game interview, and he's saying that he knows that we're better. He knows it. He knows that they're better than they're performing, and I think that's what we're lacking. I think it's just trickling down that we have a coach that's way too comfortable with losing. I think he doesn't think he's on the hot seat. I think he thinks ain't no way he's going to get fired. And, you know, to be honest, to throw that out there, I don't think we should fire him in the middle of the season. I don't. I think that would hurt our program a lot more. Even if we beat Tennessee and lose out, I don't think we should fire him in the middle of the season. I think that looks terrible. I think that's going to kill Taylen Green's confidence. But I think we should mix it up. I think we should possibly let them rotate quarterbacks, put Singleton in, because from the game film that I've watched, when Green got benched in the UAB game and Singleton went in for that one possession, guess what Green did? He marched that offense down the field for at least the next 2 possessions and got points. I mean, it lit a fire under him. And I know he's got it. I know he's got it. That first quarter, he was throwing dots all across that field. People that say Taylen Green can't throw to the left side of the field, Tesla's got something to say about that. That was on the left side of the field for a 80-yard touchdown. That's bogus, man. That's bogus.
Yeah. And appreciate your phone call.
From Thailand.
Pooh Bear. Yeah, from Thailand. Oh, Pooh Bear. I don't know what happened there, but no. As far as the firing and doing it in the middle of the year, I mean, I just don't know. Like, is there any benefit of that? And I think it just depends on what you do. Like, you got a bye week after Tennessee, and if something happens there, then maybe it switches it up. But I don't know. As far as the two quarterback thing, I'm not in favor of that either necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think it would go particularly well with Malachi Singleton, and that's honestly, it's just my gut feel. But I think Taylen Green, despite the flaws, gives you your best opportunity to win this year at the quarterback position. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they put Singleton in there. He just start, dropping seeds all over the place. I don't know. But the whole deal about Sam Pittman and just the kind of the Eeyore personality at the press conferences, I get it. I understand that completely. I don't know. Like, if nothing's going to be different in the performance, then at least something could be different in the aftermath, where you're pissed off and, I don't know, raise your voice or something. I agree with that part of it. Like, you just want to see something different. Cause I could see how it could come across to people that he's just like unfazed by it. And we know that's not true. He probably takes it harder than anybody when Arkansas loses a football game, but damn it, go up there and show that, man. I think the fan base would appreciate that. And it's probably part of the reason, at least, why everybody's extra ticked off today, because it's the same song over and over, and it's like nothing has changed. And then the way he reacts to it hasn't changed. And it's like, if anything is actually going to change, you got to do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Sam Pittman, I think there's something to him wanting to kind of put on a brave face. He doesn't want to go there and look, disheveled at the press conference. I'm sure he's trying to avoid looking stupid and looking like but I agree with you. And we've kind of said this multiple times where it's like, we think the fan base would respond well if he went up to the press conference and was like, this is unacceptable. I can't believe we lost this game, and was openly upset about it. Cause like you said, it is kind of the same old song and dance. But in terms of firing him, I definitely don't think, unless the team just completely mails it in and they make it clear, which, by the way, like the offense did that last year with Dan Enos, where it became clear you had no choice but to fire the guy. I definitely don't think we're there right now. And I think unless the team really mails it in and stops playing for him entirely, I don't know if firing him midseason is necessarily the way to go, even though I know we've all kind of forecasted this preseason. We kind of laid out the way it could play out. And so, yeah, we'll see. I mean, even if they get waxed by Tennessee, I don't know if it's the move to do that, but I agree. Like, it seems like, Pooh Bear said comfortable with losing. I think when you continue to lose in this way, it becomes easier to do it, and you kind of feel it hanging over you. I mean, we all felt like, John, you said you were there. Everyone kind of knew Arkansas was going to lose that game once it got down time to win it. That has to be radiating throughout that locker room. They have to feel some of that as well. And so, look, I'm not saying Sam Pittman going to the press conference and being calm is the reason Arkansas is losing these games, but I definitely do not, shame any fans for being upset at his body language and him seemingly being willing to just go up there and answer those questions after they lose. And what's weird is they said on the broadcast that he was telling them, he's talking to the broadcast. They were like, he said he knows how he's on the hot seat and he knows how big of a game this is. So you'd think there would be like more frustration from him at the press conference. But guys, like, let's just be honest. I mean, we know Sam Pittman's not going to be a head coach at Arkansas for like 5 more years or anything. I wonder if he kind of knows deep down, like, hey, it's over. Like, we gave it a good shot and we might be cooked.
I mean, he may be.
Body language, I'm just going to be honest with you. That's what it kind of reads to me, is like he kind of knows that he's in a tough spot and he's trying to do the best with what he's got, but I don't think he has a ton of confidence in himself or his team. And so I don't know how his team's supposed to have confidence.
Yeah. I mean, his demeanor and his approach has been pretty consistent, whether it's win or lose. I mean, even after they beat Texas in that game, it was kind of like, oh, I'm just happy for the kids. I mean, it was a little bit of extra emotion, but it wasn't like he was sitting up there and, doing finger guns and everybody being, hey, I told you I'd get it done. Like, it's just, he's kind of the same guy.
We know the kids play hard, and we know that you like your football team. We know that.
Yep, that has been established.
Yeah. The best body language he ever had was post Mississippi State 2021.
That was electric.
Oh, I knew he was going to make it. That was the good stuff. And that's what,
I want that back.
We can't see that. Let's at least see some angry Pitt. Let's see that. Which we saw, by the way, Curtis. I know you touched on this a lot in the postgame. We saw the angry Pittman after the first quarter.
Yeah, when they were up
14-7, he was like, "I'm sick of the way that we're projecting. I'm sick of the way that we're doing this." And we love that. We were like, "Hey, look at that! It's good to see some fire from the guy."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and then speaking of being there at the A&M game, they kind of summed it up. But there was a very, I know it's crazy to think, there was a drunk fan that was a few rows in front of me after the fumble that happened near the goal line that ended up leading to a Texas A&M touchdown. That gentleman stood up so fast out of frustration and anger that he got dizzy, and then he puked he had to run and puke in a trash can. I'm like, that sums up this game right here. Like that, if there was ever like a just series, show me exactly what this A&M Arkansas game is going to be like. It's that you jump up too quick out of frustrations and then you puke everywhere. Like that's perfect analogy. All right, one final phone call before we get. And appreciate all the phone calls, folks. It's been great. But we got some other things that we're going to dive into. So let's get to Tom, who I believe is in Memphis, patiently holding. What's up, Tom?
Oh, I want to say something about the Hogs. I've been a fan for 80 years, and I've gone through this many times, up and down. And we got to get it fixed. But I got a question about, they were talking about the offensive line. The line, when I look on each end, the guy would come and nobody was even in front of him. And get our quarterback on each side. Is that the way? I only saw him come through the line one time. This time that's coming on the end, there wasn't nobody even in front of these guys. And I said, well, where's the running backs? They were gone. There was nobody back there but our quarterback. And of course they clobbered him. And I wouldn't blame it on the line, offensive line so much. Just tell me who's supposed to get those guys on the end. They weren't defensive line. And they had a straight shot at the guy, our quarterback, every time. And I said, my God, who's going to block these people? Anyway, Sam Pittman, bless his heart, he's a good old boy, but and he's supposed to be the great line coach, offensive line coach. And since he's been there, our lines have not been worth crap. And everybody wondering, where's he at? He's standing on the sideline with his hand up to his lip like he's trying to be cool. Well, it ain't cool when you get your butt tied to you. Anyway, I heard about the Razorbacks and I was running laps in the gym. An old coach from up in the Ozarks there, and they called the Hogs. And I said, who is that calling the Hogs? He said, that's University of Arkansas calling the Hogs. I hadn't missed a game since then. I want to hear him call on. But hey, we got to hip up. I'm glad we got Bobby Petrino. He's as good as anybody you're going to get out there right now. Frank Broyles, I told he beat Texas 5 out of 20 years, and I picked up Lou Holtz out. He was trying to recruit a boy out of Tipton County. I told Lou Holtz at that time. Now I said, Lou, if you can beat Texas and Ole Miss, I don't care if you win another ball game. but it didn't. Anyway, we've had good days, but we can't seem to keep up with the big boys. Broyles did the Southwest Conference there, but he's always second place. And in '69, a national game for Texas, here we got them beat. Everybody in the world going through a pass. They threw a pass, and here we had two guys around him, nobody touched it. Anyway, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. But you're going to have to let them go. Somebody's got to go. Somebody get out there and block them that bird. The guys coming from the end zone. Hang in there now. We'll pick.
All right. Tom in Memphis. Appreciate it, Tom. Thanks for calling in.
Tom, make sure you call back on LSU week.
Yes, please.
Yes, please do.
Please do that. Please do that.
I mean, to his initial point, teams, A&M seemed to figure it out. Auburn didn't, for whatever reason. We talked about this, that they just didn't bring pressure a ton. They'd bring 3 or 4, and it seemed like in the second half, that's when Arkansas was able to have success. Now that I think teams have figured out that Arkansas doesn't deal well with pressure, and also, you remember when Sam Pittman used to openly admit that he didn't do well against movement, and then teams would move against Arkansas and really muck up the front? I think it's just going to be one of those things where I think this Arkansas offense is going to get easier and easier for teams to kind of find the weaknesses of, especially because it seems like no matter where the pressure comes from, it doesn't. I mean, Pittman thinks it's up the middle. We see it at the tackles. And Tom here is saying it's not even the offensive line. It's guys coming from the edge of the running backs you're supposed to pick up. So it's like, I really think that teams are just figuring out, hey, let's just zero blitz these dudes until they figure it out. And Pittman talked about that in his press conference a lot. He knows that they're going to face that kind of stuff, but I'm sure he's going to come back to the game on Monday after the Tennessee game and be like, well, we got to get the ball out quicker. Well, we got to pick it up better or whatever. But yeah, I think teams are starting to smell blood a little bit with this Arkansas offense.
No doubt.
Okay, I know I said that was the last caller. We had people still calling in, and there's a few people that are calling in that we need to hear from, to be honest. And so we got a couple more. So we'll go through these. Really appreciate it. Folks, if you didn't get in on the conversation or anything, just remember we're live streaming tonight at the Leroy on Dixon Street at 6 p.m.
Yes.
So come and hang out with us. You can talk to us personally. We may even give you a microphone on the show, depending on if you're nice. But we'll do that, and we'll still have the phone lines open and all of that. So just, yeah, for sure, come by and hit us up and hang out. I do want to bring this up here. Hold on a second here. Sorry, Andrew. Go ahead. Were you laughing about something? I want to make sure I'm getting this right.
I was just laughing at the comment section. I'm, none that I need to bring up. But
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. All right, I think I got this. It's Kingsley who has called in. What's up, Kingsley?
Yo, what's good?
What's up, man?
Oh, this is our Kingsley. What's up, man?
Man, not too much, man. Sitting here chilling with the youngins, watching you as always, man. Appreciate the work y'all put in, man. It's always good.
Thank you.
But people got me hot today, man. So I just wanted to say a couple things real quick, man. I'm just so tired of hearing people saying, isn't Pitt supposed to be the offense? So listen, you got to have pieces to make things work. Like, I want to challenge all those people to go out in your yard, get a rock and a piece of sandpaper, and you polish it. And I guarantee you it's not turning into a diamond. You can be here until Missouri week. It's not turning into a diamond, bro. So, like, relax on the Pitt talk when it comes to the offensive line. Like, yes, everything rolls up to Pitt, but it just gets out of hand with some of the stuff that people are just saying. It's just over and over and over the same old things that they hear from here and there on the internet. Like, these coaches have a plan. Like, is it working all the time? No, but you can kind of see what's going on when you look at their actions. Like, Bobby went and got Taylen, a known mobile quarterback, and I'm pretty sure he probably did that because Pitt probably told him in the offseason, like, hey, man, not looking good up front, bro. So whoever you put back there better have some wheels, you know? Like, things are in motion for a reason. And stop just jumping online and regurgitating what you hear some idiot say that doesn't have a press pass, that's not at practice, that doesn't talk to anybody who knows anything. It's not helpful in any way. It's not helpful for recruiting. It's not helpful for the players. And it just doesn't bring any value. So, like, relax, bro. Like, it's not working out quite yet this season. No one's happy about it. I'm not happy about it. But some of the stuff makes sense if you just step back and look at it. So that's all. I'm just tired of hearing like freaking parrots. Like, it's all lemmings, and you know, they just follow each other off the cliff with the same old tropes. Just tired, bro.
Well, hey,
dude, the one thing you're absolutely right about is it's just really hard to get talent on either side of the line of scrimmage. Like, just really talented offensive linemen and defensive linemen, they all tend to gravitate to the same schools, and they don't move around too much. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's like, you know, right. Arkansas was tasked with rebuilding the offensive line through the portal, and it's just really a hard thing to do. Like, the next team that does it in college football will be the first that does it at an elite level. Like, look at all the best teams, best offenses in the country. Look at where their offensive lines come from. It's not really the portal typically. And so I think it would have been unrealistic for Arkansas to actually field this super talented offensive line. I thought they would be better than they have been this year. I thought they'd be at least like somewhat average. And I thought Carmona was a nice piece that they were able to get from San Jose State. But I think the reality of it is it's just really hard to find actual talent at offensive line and defensive line. That's kind of what turned out to be Brett Bielema's undoing. If you go back to, you know, his tenure and how it ended, Arkansas just got worse and worse at the line of scrimmage as his tenure went on. And I hate to say it, but that's kind of what's happening to Sam Pittman here. Is his offensive line and defensive line are getting worse and worse throughout his tenure. And that's the two areas where Arkansas just isn't able to make it work. But I agree with your point that, like, him being the offensive line guru is almost irrelevant, because it's like it really just comes down to this is where Arkansas's at it as a program, which of course is his doing for sure. But it is kind of tough where it's like, I don't know how you could just overnight find a good offensive line if you don't have one.
You don't. You got to build that organically. As an offensive lineman, when I was younger, like, you don't just get better, you don't go to practice one day and it's like, oh, I figured out the entire offensive line blocking scheme. Like, that stuff has to grow over time. Like, and you hit the nail on the head. Like, over the years, we swung and missed on offensive linemen so many times. And, like, none of them are here anymore. And they're not even good at their next stop. So, like, you got to hit in recruiting. When they get here, you got to coach them up, and you got to wait for them to develop. And unfortunately, I think the time has probably run out for that, to happen for Pitt. And that's really unfortunate, but it is what it is. I mean, Carmona was a good pickup, but those are the type of transfers you got to get in. You got to go for someone who's overperforming at a lower level. You're not going to bring in a backup from another SEC school and they're going to come in here and shine and go to the league. That's just, 1 in a million chance. You're looking for a needle in a haystack with that. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. The NFL offensive linemen aren't hitting the transfer portal. They're going to the NFL. So, but yeah, it stinks, man, because I think they did have some guys who were really promising. Devin Manuel, Andrew Chambly are a couple that stand out to me. But yeah, they've missed a ton and then weren't able to keep the guys who you felt good about. And it's one thing to have to go out into the transfer portal and bring in a dude to plug a gap. Like if you bring in Josh Braun and you slide him over there at guard and he kind of fills the gap with everybody else you have coming back. Okay, cool. But they were just in a situation where it was so bad. Like, you literally had to go out and get an entire group. They didn't have a choice because they didn't have anybody left in that pipeline. And and it does. It falls back on Pittman, at the top as the recruiter and the evaluator, and he's failed at that part. But in terms of this group in particular, not being gangbusters right out of the gates, like, I don't know what the hell people expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And you can look no further than 54, man. I'm not in the business of coming on here and disparaging players by name. I'm really against that. But that's some filthy play on the right side of that line, man. It is nasty work going on over there, man. And it's to a point where you can see it in guys' feet when they have the capability of changing and getting better. You can see how they move, and you can say, okay, we just need to maybe guide him to the right place, or he just got to get out of the blocks faster. Man, that man is standing in wet concrete every play, and it is unacceptable. And if we had somebody better than him to put in and behind him, he would be in there already. So, guys, you know what the deal is. Yep. Probably just stop calling into the show and saying, pitch the offensive line guru. I'm just tired. Don't do that. Don't do it no more.
Hey, Kingsley, we appreciate you calling in, man, and being a part of it and supporting us, man. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, yeah, always, man. Look forward to seeing y'all soon, man.
All right, appreciate it. Again, that was a good
That's
team.
funny. We've
Kingsley.
had 2 callers now call in and say, I don't like the bash players, but the right tackle.
that right tackle now. He ain't getting it done. Okay, final call here. And again, appreciate everybody that's been calling in. It's been great. It's been absolutely great to talk to all of you. See if I can get this connected here. I think it's Hayden Short, who is one of our chatters too, is calling in. What's up, Hayden?
What's up, fellas?
What's up, man?
First off, I just want to say I think Kingsley and I are brothers from another mother because a lot of similar thoughts going on. Sounds like we both played offensive line growing up. So, Kingsley, you're the man. Also want to say that I completely agree with his sentiment about Pittman being the offensive line guru. At the end of the day, if you don't have the pieces, it doesn't matter how good your coaches are. And it takes time to get pieces. One of my good friends is the athletic trainer for the Cowboys. And I saw him at training camp this year. And I was like, so, how's it going to be? And he just looked at me and he goes, we're going to need a lot of help. And that's exactly how I feel about kind of the pieces with Arkansas. Like, people know when they look whether you have the talent or not, and we just don't. And to Kingsley's point as well, if we had better guys, they'd be in there, like we don't. and that's what sucks, but it's just the reality of things. And another thing that I wanted to bring up was the plight of being an Arkansas fan is so hilarious because, like, just on every given random play, I'm just nervous about something that's non-nerve-wracking. For instance, the snap. Like, when we're about to snap the ball, I'm like, is he going to catch it? Will he actually catch this snap? When Satanga's back there for a punt return, I legitimately get nervous. I have to look away because I'm like, will he actually catch the punt return? Will Tesla get blocked into him and we fumble? That's really kind of being an Arkansas fan in a nutshell is, you know, you have the talent that you have. It's going to take time to get better talent. You have to retain coaches and coordinators to get better talent over time, or else you're not going to do that. And you're not going to be able to do common things well when you don't have good talent. And that might be on the coaching, but you could tell that they gave up on returning after the first punt return. If you go back and watch the game, Tesla got very close to getting blocked into Satanga again. And after that, we sent nobody back. I think Fountain was just like, screw it, dude. Like, we can't get out of our own way. We're just going to hope we can get some fair catches. But, yeah, sucky game per usual.
Oh, yeah. We appreciate you calling in and chatting in with us, Hayden.
I want to I want to clarify something, I think, for our last couple callers, because people are getting so pissed in the chat. Like, what do you mean he's had 5 years and everything? I think it's like we all agree that Sam Pittman is not off the hook for failures in recruiting offensive linemen and evaluating, developing those guys. No, absolutely not. I think it's the word guru in this sense is like what you have and then turning something that's not good into something that's really good overnight. Like he doesn't have the magic wand to do that. Nobody's saying that he is off the hook.
It's why he's going to get fired.
Exactly.
Like, that's what we're saying. Exactly. It's why he is going to get fired. So nobody's saying we're arguing for him to, keep his job. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's just the point. Because I think people were saying they were like, oh, well, he's got to have time to get the players and everything. Well, we understand that he's had the time and he has not done a good job of it. But my point is, when you go out and get a bunch of backups to come be on your starting offensive line in the SEC, if you expect just because Sam Pittman is the quote unquote offensive line guru that they're going to suddenly become a top SEC offensive line, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, we just thought they could be serviceable, which I think Arkansas's last 2 games against actual SEC teams have showed us, maybe not. And so, look, it's not like we're saying, hey, you can't criticize Sam Pittman because, listen, I brought up the recruits that, like, they just missed. They went 3 years without getting blue chip offensive line. Like, they didn't get any legitimate SEC starters for 3 years in recruiting. And that's what leads you to losing your job. That's why Brett Bielema eventually, he stopped being able to recruit on both sides of the line of scrimmage. That's kind of what is your undoing there. And, people reference, hey, yeah, Brett Bielema had great offensive lines whenever Sam Pittman was there. Like, how did that happen? It was early in his tenure because they recruited well. Denver Kirkland was a great recruit. Frank Ragnow, great recruit. Like, you can just go on down the line. Dan Skipper, like, those are guys they got out of high school and developed, and they just whiffed on a lot of these dudes. It's kind of crazy. And, and so that's going to be his undoing. We're just simply laying out the situation. We're not saying this is our case for why Sam Pittman should remain as the head coach at Arkansas. I don't know how that got lost in translation somehow.
Well, I know we great calls and great people in the chat there too. We just have a few minutes left. Did want to get into our Alumni Hall question of the day. Of course, Alumni Hall, we went out there last week. It was an awesome time, and it is the best place when it comes to all of your Razorback apparel. So some of you who are going to be coming in for the game this weekend, get here and get over to Alumni Hall, 3417 North College Avenue. They have all the best Razorback apparel, from warm wear to cold wear, hats, everything. Check them out. And you can also shop them online at alumnihall.com/Arkansas-Razorbacks. In order for getting that, you will hopefully get it by the time the game arrives. So get there now and order online. It's a very simple thing. Do you want to see Singleton get a shot at quarterback? Because, some people, not everybody, but some people were saying, hey, quarterback's a problem. Taylen's confidence is shook and everything like that. And as far as asking the question on Twitter, 69% say no. They do not want to see they do not want to see Singleton get a shot at quarterback.
Would not have expected those results, frankly.
I wasn't either.
But I agree with them.
I do too. And because it just one of the greatest examples of showing that, hey, sometimes the minority is the loudest, where you think like, oh man, I guess a lot of people are going to feel this way. And then No, the vast majority of the people still say, nah, they want to stick with Taylen Green there. And also, of course, we got to get into the best and worst of the weekend, presented by the Leroy Lounge here on Dixon Street. We're going to be there tonight, folks, 6 p.m. Going to be live stream, getting you ready for Monday Night Football, and we're going to have a lot more to talk about because we haven't really got to really a lot of the stuff from the Sam Pittman press conference today that I know we want to dive into. But it's been great because we've been able to talk with all of you and get you. This is what the show's about, is having that interaction and a voice that you can provide. So we'll talk a lot more about that. We will still take your phone calls. And rumor has it that Coach Z is going to be hanging out with us later tonight. So be good to see him and when he comes by and swings by, according to that. So anyways, but best and worst of the weekend. I'll go ahead and start it off here because I don't know. I love this video, and when I saw it, I had to play it. But Auburn and Oklahoma played each other. Well, before the game even started, I think it was one of the greatest highlight plays that you'll ever see from it coming. That Auburn cheerleader just absolutely annihilated that Oklahoma football player. Oklahoma got the win. But, man, there may be very few things humbling as a football player in full pads to get absolutely destroyed by a cheerleader that's backflipping on the field. That's got to hurt. But that was that was, to me, the best thing I saw of the weekend. Didn't care what happened in the game, but seeing a cheerleader take out a football player out there just doing flips was pretty incredible.
Yeah, that was awesome, man. That's the first time I saw that, so I was not prepared for what was about to go down. That's tough. It kind of reminds me like the Pee Wee football teams or whatever, where they run through the banner and they like can't get through the paper and then they all fall on top of each other or whatever. So
yeah, that was the best for me though.
I like it a lot. Let's see. I think I have this video pulled up. Mine is Ryan Williams. Did you guys watch this dude? Do you know who I'm talking about? That literally
was mine.
Okay, well then
you
we
guys can share.
It's worth sharing because he had that many highlights. The dude is unbelievable. 17 years old. I want one of those. That guy is incredible. And so he was making these ridiculous highlight plays, wide receiver for Alabama against Georgia. It's not like this isn't a highlight for Arkansas against UAPB. It's just the best defenders in the country, and he was just making them look silly. And he's out there, 17 years old, 170 pounds, doesn't matter, doing ridiculous things. Then he's doing the Dirty Bird celebration on him after taking the lead at the end of the game. And then he does the Mike Vick holding a puppy as his profile pic on Instagram because that's what he's doing to them dogs. Like, that dude he's special.
I mean, having kill everyone on your tape there. One, there's no way he would have done that if Nick Saban were still the head coach. There's no way he leaves that locker room with kill everyone written on his eye black if Saban's the head coach. But I'm glad that he did it because, I mean, to be 17 years old and to be doing that in that situation, in that game against Georgia, man, he was bullying those guys. He had him looking like Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone, how he was doing those guys, having them run into each other. It was crazy, man. I really think he's a special talent. I don't think I'm breaking any news there, but man, I even told Hillary last night, I was like, dude, this might be my new favorite athlete in the world, might be a 17-year-old. I never thought I'd say that, but that dude is unbelievable. I cannot wait to watch his career play out. And thank God we don't have to watch Arkansas play against him.
Yeah, no kidding, man. No doubt about it. An honorable mention for best of the weekend's got to be because hit him when he's down, but you got to give him love when he's up. Coach Prime, man. Deion Sanders, listen. Future Razorback coach, Deion Sanders. I'm going to give my super chat. That way you guys have to say it. On board. I'm back on board.
Well, speaking of future Arkansas head coaches, I mean, shout out Barry Odom, who put the NIL talk with his QB behind him. Goes out there, the backup looked awesome, and it seemed like the team was kind of prepared for that. Everyone was all game long or all week long kind of tweeting how excited they were to see. I don't know. I can't. It's like Haj Malik. It's like something William. Like he's got like a dash last name, and one of them is Haj. But their quarterback, I forgot his name, the UNLV kid, but they looked awesome. Beat the hell out of Fresno State. Despite they were only like 2.5 point favorites. So I mean, UNLV continues to, they're 4-0. I mean, they're on the right track. They're going to be in that playoff mix. We'll see what happens. I'm sure they'll slip on the banana peel somewhere. But that was one of their toughest games on their schedule, and they made it look real easy. But guys, my best of the week, aside from Ryan Williams, because that really was like what I was prepared to come on here and rave about. So I was watching the Texans game yesterday, of course, which the Texans, very solid win. looked a little shaky there for a minute, but CJ Stroud leads the game-winning drives. Nico Collins was awesome. But Arkansas the Houston Texans were playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who honestly I just kind of forgot was a hotbed for Pro Hogs. Cam Little, their kicker, of course, 2 for 2, just nails a 52-yarder. It would have been good from 65. He looks like he's gonna have a long career as a place kicker, man. He's doing what Zach Hocker couldn't do, so that's good to see. Monteric Brown, I was really not aware of how good of a pro he's become. Now we're talking about a 7th round pick who like kind of worked his way onto the 53-man roster. Dude, he's there. He's like one of their top corners. Now he wasn't the one who was guarding Nico Collins when he was going off all day, but I mean, he spent some time guarding Stephon Diggs. He broke up 3 or 4 passes. He was all over the place, man. It was really cool to see him. Jeremiah Ledbetter, who I honestly like would not have guessed is still in the league. He was only at Arkansas for like 1 or 2 years there. Was one of the back in the day when you could recruit JUCO guys. But he had a huge sack against CJ Stroud. Like, it's cool to see these Pro Hogs. For some reason, Arkansas sends all their NFL guys to like the same 4 places. They're either Lions, Patriots, Jaguars, and I feel like there's another team, but like they all kind of go to the same 3 or 4 teams. But it was cool to see that many Pro Hogs out there yesterday, just making stuff happen.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with at least I guess I want to call it a worst of the weekend. But the people who, for whatever reason, whenever a hurricane comes in, which has been obviously very devastating down there, and if you're one of our listeners, hopefully everybody's okay down there in the hurricane, in the path of the hurricane and all that. But the fact that, people in football programs will put out tweets talking about the hurricane and like their opponent and whatnot, is just something that I don't understand. It's like, I get maybe it was intentional, maybe it wasn't intentional, whatever it was. But I saw a few teams that had done that, and Colorado was one of the teams because obviously they had playing UCF, and they had to deal with this, of course, doing the land shark in the open waters there on the beach and in Florida and everything. And it's just like, sometimes you just got to maybe read the room a little bit and maybe think about, is this really what you need to be doing? It took them a while to take it down, but they weren't the only ones. There were some other ones too. But I feel like this happens almost every year where there's a hurricane coming and then some opposing team that's going to be playing down there, whether it's in Texas or Bama or Florida or whatever, this always puts out one of these tweets of dealing with a hurricane. It's just like, maybe just don't do that. But people who do that, it's just bad. So that was the worst of my weekend.
It's some intern who doesn't have any awareness, or like doesn't watch the news or the weather or whatever. It's a very tone deaf thing for sure. I have 2. One wasn't really from the weekend, but just saw this morning. Did you guys see Dikembe Mutombo passed away?
Yeah,
man, that sucks, dude. Brain cancer. My God, at 58 years old, that's way too young. He was so much fun. So I was sad to see that. And then I gotta tell you, Oklahoma State, like that loss is not aging well, because that is a fraudulent football team over there. They got big issues. They got the hell beat out of them by Kansas State, and was kind of hoping that they would continue to win and maybe get to a Big 12 championship or something. That way you could look back on it and be like, oh, it really was a loss on the road to a top 20 team. Nope, they're frauds.
I'll be honest with you, Curtis. You stole mine once again. I was Dikembe Mutombo. I literally, when I saw it this morning, I was like, that's going to be my worst of the week. So shout out to you for taking that, H-Town legend. I mean, the finger wag. I mean, that's one of the most iconic celebrations of all time, period.
Yeah. Which, can you guys do that? Because like some people can't do, like, you can do this, but I'm talking about like just the finger. Like, can you do that?
Yeah. I'm an athlete, bro. I can do anything. Well, since Curtis stole my worst of the week, I'm just going to go back to my best of the week. I'm going to give another best of the week. How about that? I hope I pulled up the right video for this. Did y'all know that the UFC was in Paris, France this past weekend? This card actually took place right around the same time as the Arkansas game. So I was kind of like half-assedly paying attention to it. But there was a guy named Brian Battle who is from America, and he fought a French guy, Kevin Jousset, and knocked him out in the second round, and cut a really awesome promo afterwards. I hope this video works. I want to play it for you guys.
Hey, USA in this hole, baby. Yeah, let me hear it. Hey, I know y'all didn't think the Butcher was going to lose in a fist fight to a French dude. I know y'all did not think the Butcher was going to lose in a fist fight to a French dude. That ain't never going to happen.
again, they're in Paris. And he's like, I know y'all didn't think I was going to lose to a French dude after knocking him out. And he's just getting booed into oblivion. In the business, that's what we call turning heel. Brian,
did that.
a former Ultimate Fighter winner a few years ago, has had a nice little career. He's becoming one of my favorite fighters, man. I got to be honest. John, I want to get your thoughts on that clip.
I know I love the clip because anytime you can make fun of the French, I'm all in favor of. And also the fact that it's great to see that in the confidence that he has. But I love the crowd shot because those guys are so mad and there's nothing they can do. But you're just like, yeah, how dare you? But that's my favorite thing is when fans get so mad over something like that. And then it's just, you're saying nothing. Like nothing is going to change. He's still going to get you. But no, that was great. I like that part of the UFC and MMA of just trolling crowds. I really love that. It's always fun.
It drives me nuts when people don't use their, when Joe Rogan interviews them after the fight and they use it to kind of be tame and, oh, I just want to thank my family, blah, blah, blah. And like, they'll ask them, who do you want to fight next? And they're like, oh, it doesn't matter to me, man. I'll fight anyone. It's like, use that time on the microphone. That's your time to cut a promo. Yep. That's your time to let fans remember you. And hopefully everyone now knows Brian Battle and they will remember Brian Battle.
Well, there you have it. There's the best and worst of the weekend presented by the Leroy Lounge here on Dixon Street in Fayetteville. Again, folks, we're going to be out there starting at 6 p.m. tonight. So if you need an awesome place to watch the Monday Night Football game tonight and just to hang out with great food, great drinks, great vibes, great games as well, come check them out. They're still doing their closest to the pin contest for a chance to win a set of irons from Titleist. So great deal there, but we'll tell you more about that tonight when we're live streaming there. Again, we'll get to your phone calls and everything as well. So, fellas, before we wrap up, any final thoughts that we want to part ways with the people and the folks that were so kind to be pissed off today?
Nah, I'm going to save them for tonight when we do this all over again. Aside from to echo what you said, John, thanks to everybody for calling. I know everybody's passionate, and we like to give you the opportunity to vent. So appreciate that.
Listen, like I want this to be a home for if you're a Razorback fan, you don't know what you're mad at the team, you're happy with the team, you don't know what to do. We want you. This is the place to get it all out. And so I hope that I saw Bloodline in here saying thanks for letting us vent. This is absolutely the place to do it. So appreciate y'all. And anyone who's in the area, pull up at the Leroy tonight. Like just quit messing around. Pull up at the Leroy tonight.
Yep. It's plain and simple. Got to do it. So I appreciate everybody listening in, watching in. Be sure to subscribe to us on Inside Arkansas on our YouTube page, as well as follow us on all of our social medias. Be sure to check out InsideArkansas.com for all the latest and greatest information and up-to-date info when it comes to the Razorback faithful. And we'll keep it going from there. So for Andrew Ellis and Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel. Tonight at the Leroy Lounge on Dixon Street starting at 6 p.m. Have a great rest of your afternoon and evening, folks, and we'll see you then.